So now we need to create some access policies, or what we really call interface policy groups. So think of these kind of like when we go into a switch port. If we were just in NXOS and we wanted to set the speed and CDP and LLDP parameters, we typically do that directly into the interface. We'd say interface Ethernet 1.1, speed 10,000, CDP enable, LLDP, I forget the exact receive, and LACP transmit, so on and so forth. And we typically have to do this hundreds of thousands of times depending on the size of the data center. We did have things like I want to call them switch profiles for some reason, but yeah, switch profiles, or port profiles, I should say. Gosh, and port profiles kind of saved us some time there because we could bundle that configuration up and then just basically inherit that port profile within the interface itself. So these interface policy groups are kind of like that. It's where we're going to take those interface policies, the CDP, LLDP, link level policies that we created earlier, and we're going to wrap those together into a policy that we can use and reuse as necessary. So what we're going to do, let me go over here, we'll embiggen this. We're going to go down here. Again, we're still, if I scroll back up just a little bit here, we're still under fabric and access policies, but what we're going to do is we're going to go down here again under interface policies, and we're going to go to policy groups. I'm going to create 2 of these, and there's 4 different types here. We have access port policies, port channel interface policies, VPC interface policies, and then override policies. Those pretty much speak for themselves there. The access ports are just going to be used on a traditional like access port where you're not in a port channel. Port channels are going to be any ports together participating in a single port channel, and then the VPC interface policy group is going to be for VPC interfaces participating in a port channel. What's kind of tricky about this, and let me cruise over here, give you guys a glimpse of what to come. If you have, say, your leaf switch, and let's say that we have 2 physical ports hanging off this guy, and maybe we're going to a non-ACI switch. So again, this is non-ACI. And let's say he's got 2 ports, and maybe we're just extending layer 2 at some point, or maybe we're doing layer 3. But if these 2 ports are going to be in a port channel together, we have to have a single port channel interface policy group. So one port channel interface policy group. And that interface policy group is going to identify that port channel. By you putting those 2 ports, okay, into this policy group, that's telling the system that those are going to be in a port channel together. If we were to take this switch, let's say this is the same leaf switch, and we carved out 2 more interfaces going up to another non-ACI switch, okay, like this, and say we wanted these 2 in a port channel, I would have to create another port channel interface policy group to wrap those guys in, okay? You can't have them all in the same port channel interface policy group. So we're going to have one of those port channel interface policy groups per port channel or per VPC. Okay, so that's one of the kind of caveats that a lot of people fail to understand about these guys, and it's pretty important. So we're actually going to create just right now access port policy groups. So we're going to create 2. I'm going to create one of these guys that is basically CDP and LLDP enabled. So we're going to say this is going to be 10 gig with CDP and LLDP. So we're going to select our 10 gig policy, CDP on, and LLDP, TX, and RX are both going to be on as well. So that's all I really want to do here. Again, I'm going to ignore all of this other stuff for now, especially the attached entity profile. We'll go ahead and submit it. Notice it gives you a nice little chart here. You can kind of expand these out and drag this one over so we can see exactly the policies that we know we're kind of referencing. So again, 10 gig CDP, LLDP, see our policies all on. We're going to create another one here that's going to be 10 gig with CDP, but no, actually we're going to do no CDP and gosh, I am brain farting. We're going to do CDP and no LLDP. Okay, so again, we're going to do 10 gig, we're going to do CDP, and we're going to do LLDP. Both TX and RX are going to be off. And I'll tell you why we're going to do that one. Because we're going to be connecting down to UCS systems, the Fabric Interconnects, as well as the C-Series servers. Now, when we do the VM integration with vCenter, we're going to be gleaning information off of certain ports, usually via LLDP, to identify the virtual machines and the ESXi host, etc. Now, a lot of the UCS systems, especially the FIs, the UCS C-Series servers, they support LLDP. They do. But what they won't do is they won't pass those LLDP frames on to the hypervisor, okay, so down to the virtual switch level. So typically what we have to do is identify the VMs through the use of CDP. And again, with UCS Manager, this was pre-224B. We had to basically disable LLDP towards the Fabric Interconnects and enable CDP, and then within there we had to do a network control policy allowing CDP down to the ESXi host. Since 224B, that's been kind of resolved, but basically the gist of it is that the mezzanine and MLOM cards would not pass that LLDP traffic down to the ESXi host within the blades. So again, that's why we have this one policy here where CDP's on but LLDP's off. So we're going to use that facing our UCS systems for right now because we're actually not running 224B within our systems. So those are our two access policies that we were really going to create. And again, we're going to be referencing these guys within our interface selectors. So if we go back to our interface profiles here, okay, and we go down into our interface selectors, notice we have E1 and 2. Those were the ones facing our switches. So with these guys, we're actually going to just attach those to the CDP LLDP policy. Okay, and click Submit there. Do the same on this one. I think that took. And then we'll go down to 102. We'll do the same thing on ports 1 and 2. And we'll select CDP LLDP. And then on ports 7 and 8, which we're facing our C-Series, as well as our Fabric Interconnects, we're going to do the no LLDP policy. We'll select no LLDP. Making sure we hit submit. I'm going to go back and recheck these because I'm not seeing any indication that it's taking it. But I am clicking twice, so hopefully it is. No LLDP. Okay, we'll go back to our interface profiles. Just make sure that we see the correct policy groups being referenced for all of our ports. Yeah, see how it didn't take 7 and 8 on that guy? I knew it didn't like flash for me. So we'll try that again. Okay, felt like it took that time. Okay. Yeah, so now everything looks good. So now we've got basically our interface policy groups, which again is basically just like going in there and setting the speed, LLDP, and CDP parameters under these specific ports. So basically telling that port, you know, how it's going to act. And again, if we want to take a holistic view, if we go back over here, we can see now, remember our switch profiles where we identified our switches and our VPC pairs. They contain our interface profiles, which actually contain the individual ports. And now these ports are referencing profiles, or policy groups, I should say, that are basically telling those ports how they're supposed to act. Okay? And again, a big part of this video and what I want to convey to you guys is that for each port channel and each virtual port channel that we actually have, we have to have a unique, okay, interface policy group. Okay, you have to have a unique interface policy group. And again, think back if you're a 1000V guru, when you do the Nexus 1000V for each individual port channel, you had to have basically a port group, right? A port profile. So the same thing here, except it's called an interface policy group.